Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hope all of you are doing well and excited to be back here with us for our second day of our 2021 Illinois LGBTQ Business Summit. My name is Jeremy Holston. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the director here at the LGBT Chamber of Commerce of Illinois. For those of you joining us today for an event for the first time, the LGBT Chamber of Commerce is a statewide organization supporting the voices of nearly 50,000 LGBTQ business owners across the state of Illinois. To support our more than 300 members, we provide access to marketing, networking, professional development, and advocacy, and the LGBT Business Enterprise Certification through our partnership with NGLCC, which will be highlighted today. A couple of things for you all to know while you're here with us. Let me go to my, well, it was on the last screen in terms of sort of engagement. As you all can see right now, we are in webinar format. So that means you're here without having to utilize your video. So feel free to walk around, stretch, have some snacks, have some coffee, whatever's going to make you energized and fully engaged in this session. Do what works best for you. We do want to make sure that you are networking with others while you're here and also just being engaged with the conversation. As you can see on the handbar for Zoom, there are two ways you can interact with others and the panelists. There is a chat box opportunity. You do want to be sure that if you are sending a note to everyone, that you change the to everyone. So I encourage everyone to go to the chat box session, change the to everyone, and then drop a note to introduce yourself to everyone here with us today. Be sure to include some links to your website or your LinkedIn. That way we can all stay connected and continue to do business with each other. And then in terms of submitting questions to our panelists, there is a Q&A option. So if you have questions, please use the Q&A box as that is the primary way that we will be tracking your questions for today. And then last but not least, enjoy today. Huge shout out to our sponsors who are huge parts in helping to make sure that this content was possible. State Farm, Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago, the Chicago Transit Authority, and CNA, all of them who will be participating in our matchmaking session happening at 1 p.m. today. So thank you to all those partners for helping us make today's event successful. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what our schedule looks like today. As you know, we'll be kicking off here shortly with our keynote panel. We are joined by Sabrina Kent from NGLCC, Jayson Mamaclay from ThinkBook Events, Jonathan Hart from Big Mouth Creative, Laura Jean Gorski and Sean Command from Birds on a Cable. We'll take a short break from 12:30 to 1. Then we'll actually be ending our day with matchmaking from 1 to 2. So looking forward to that. So with that, I am excited for us to dive in. I've already told you who will be having join us, and so they'll be providing some better introductions here in just a moment. But as you all know, we have been going through a rough time as a business community, as a nonprofit, as individuals taking care of our homes and families. And so in today's conversation, I'm excited to hear how these business owners have continued to navigate through the pandemic and the direction that we're headed as we continue to recover. So I want to give a huge thank you to Sabrina from NGLCC for joining us here today to share some data with us from some things that they've learned at NGLCC, then also being able to help lead today's conversation. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen. And then Sabrina, I will turn it over to you and our panelists to get the conversation started.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thanks for hosting an incredible series of events yesterday and today. So proud to be with you all in the LGBT Chamber of Commerce of Illinois. And of course, I see some amazing certified LGBT business enterprises and corporate partners of the NGLCC in the audience. So it's great to have you here with us as well. As Jeremy mentioned, today's conversation is all about the COVID-19 journey, getting back to business and continuity of operations, and the journeys that our certified LGBT business enterprises have faced as business owners and members of certified businesses in their companies. And so before we get started and I introduce our amazing panelists, I want to start by sharing a little bit of data as we contextualize today's conversation. In Pride Month, NGLCC released a survey with CNBC, and I believe Jeremy's going to share that here in the chat so you can take a look at all of the data that we found. But I think probably the biggest and most astounding piece of information was that nearly 80% of LGBTQ small business owners expect to make a full recovery in 2022 after an incredible year of devastation and now 20 months plus of devastation due to the pandemic. There's also still considerable unease about hiring, funding, access to capital and contracts, and more as LGBT business owners. And so today we're going to hear some stories of resilience. We're going to hear some practical advice on how to get back to business and to learn about some of the different journeys that our LGBT business owners faced during the last 20 months. So without further ado, I'm pleased to welcome our panelists to the virtual stage. Laura Jean Gorski, or LJ, launched Birds on a Cable nearly 6 years ago after working a 2-year stint at an IT consulting company. LJ wanted more than they were able to provide at that company, and there wasn't wiggle room to compromise, but was loosely prepared, and her clients and coworkers followed her as she started her new venture. Before that, LJ worked part-time answering phones at her sister's startup IT company during college and never expected to stay in the field. After mastering IT skills while juggling admin work at her sister's company, she found her skill sets in IT and business ownership that have led her to where she is today as owner and managing member of Birds on a Cable. Welcome, Laura. Jayson Mamaclay is the owner of a team building company called Think Quick Events and the founder of Fuzzy Logic Escape Room, which is based in Downers Grove. With career experience as a CPA and management consultant and personal passion as an avid gamer, Jayson built up an industry award-winning business focused on creating fun moments that center around teamwork and play. Glad to have you here, Jayson. As owner and design director of Big Mouth Creative, Jonathan Hart approaches every project with a dogged thoughtfulness and a creative solution for every situation. He believes graphic design is the perfect blend of math, science, and art, and his passion for all three have driven his career. In his past life at big agencies in Chicago, Jonathan worked on accounts such as GE Healthcare, USG, SCA, Qualcomm, and Torque. He also played a key role in successfully branding several properties for his international real estate firm, Golub, during one of the worst housing crises in history. His passion for using insights and emotion to shape thoughtful brand stories led him to co-found Big Mouth Creative in 2018. Welcome, Jonathan. And Sean Command works in client relationship and development for Birds on a Cable, which is Laura Jean's IT consulting firm in Chicago. Sean's roles include business development, client relations, technical consulting, and support. Recently, he's been involved in finding new business opportunities within the public sector by leveraging Birds on a Cable's NGLCC LGBT Business Enterprise Certification. Welcome, Sean. So panelists, if you could turn on your video and come to the stage, let's have a little chit chat here with our amazing group of attendees. I want to start first and just ask you all to share a little bit about yourself and your business. We just heard your amazing bios, and I will say I'm in great company today. But if you could just share, again, your name, pronouns, and a little bit about your company, and we'll start with you, LJ.
Sure. Thanks for the intro. I feel like we needed the Bulls theme music for that. My name's Laura, LJ, either works. I own Birds on a Cable. We've been in business for almost 10 years now. And we're basically the IT guy for small to mid-sized businesses in and around Chicago, mostly. We've joined a number of chambers. We're part of the Women's Business Organization, but I would say 95% of any business outside of Chicago has come from this chamber or the national chamber. So that's pretty exciting for us. And it just speaks to the sense of family that this organization gives us. I think that's about it.
Thanks so much. And Sean, you work for LJ's company, so tell us a little bit about your role and why you're here today.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Sean Command, he, him, yes, and I'm more of a jack of all trades, kind of like Laura's go-to, go-to guy, but yeah, when it comes to business development and client relations and trying to find creative ways to improve our business. And I remember whenever I was hired, probably was it 6 years ago. I noticed the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm like, hey Laura, we should join this. This could be a good idea. And so for the last 6 years, we've been members of the Chamber of Commerce, and it's been great. We've had a lot of relationships, met a lot of people, and it's just really cool to see how much it's grown, and how much like the certification's grown nationally, and it's being well accepted. Nobody even knew about it 6 years ago, and so now people will call you just because of it, and it really gets your foot in the door. And so that's kind of the story of how we got involved in this, and where we're kind of at now.
Thanks, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan, welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Thanks, Sabrina. Yeah, I'm Jonathan Hart, pronouns he, him, his, owner and design director at Big Mouth Creative. We're actually a relatively new-ish member of the Chamber. We joined the beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic started. As Sabrina mentioned in my bio, that makes me laugh anytime somebody reads that out loud. We actually started Big Mouth in 2018, and I had a co-founder at the time who left right before the pandemic. And we didn't understand at the time that, having a 50-50 partnership split meant that we couldn't apply for a women-owned business, and we couldn't apply for an LGBT-owned business. So as soon as she kind of left to pursue other things, joining the Chamber was like first thing on my to-do list. So it's really been a great couple of years. We've been so engaged, been active in lots of things. And very similarly to Birds on a Cable, a lot of our business has come through the Chamber. And we actually have an agency of record status for another Chamber member, Pride Candle Company. That's a really awesome candle company if you haven't checked them out.
Awesome, Jonathan. So glad to have you. And I can say, since you have become certified and joined the Chamber, you've really dove in head first, which I think is amazing. And I know we're going to talk about a little bit more today. Jayson, last but certainly not least, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much, Sabrina, and super excited to be here and among a really, really great company. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jayson Mamaclay, pronouns are he, him, and I'm the owner of Think Quick Events, which specializes in virtual team building. And many of you probably recall me with a different background for Fuzzy Logic Escape Room, which is out in Downers Grove, as Sabrina had mentioned. Similar to Jonathan, we started our company in 2018, myself and my life partner, and as an indoor entertainment business, certainly got rocked to the core because of the pandemic. We'll dive into it a little bit later, but really I think when I reflect on my experiences with the Chamber and with our certification, just the amount of support, connection, and community that everyone has played a part in has really helped to keep chins up, to push through, and to support each other. And so I'm really excited about today's dialogue.
Thanks, Jayson. And I love that we have such a diverse array of industries here in our conversation. And as I look through the attendee list today, I also see really diverse group. I saw Roxana Daniel in there, Lauren Chaya, a number of others. So I know that the business owners, hey, Matt Tinney, I see you there too. So I know that the business owners on the line today, you all have your own burning questions for our panelists today. So please utilize the Q&A feature here on Zoom. We will have time for Q&A at the end of the session today. Utilize that Q&A feature and we can get to as many questions as possible for our amazing panelists. But without further ado, let's just jump right in. Like I said earlier, the last 20 months have been nothing short of game changing, right? So walk us through those first few weeks and months of COVID. What was your experience as a business owner? The word of the year was pivot. Can you tell us how you did that, or maybe you didn't? Jayson, we know you definitely pivoted. You just alluded to that. So let's start with you.
Yeah, sounds good. So, I mean, as an indoor recreation business, being stuck in a room with people fiddling around with props and locks and puzzles as our form of entertainment wasn't exactly in vogue. So we did what we needed to do initially to try to increase sanitation, put in operational measures to be able to address what the public needed. And then, of course, the shutdown for indoor recreation caused us to close our doors. We were evaluating what could we do in the meantime, and in April, we started doing some research about some virtual offerings that other escape rooms, primarily in Europe, were trying out. And we tried them out ourselves, evaluated what we liked about them, how we could do our own different spin on it, actually chatted with other owners within the industry to be able to try to learn from and support each other as well. And so that's what helped us launch our virtual delivery, which allowed us to reach out to a global audience and eventually get us noticed by leaders within the industry as a brand to emulate in terms of what we thought about and put into for customer experience. It also helped us identify a new target market in the corporate space where employers were really dealing with engaging a remote workforce, many for the first time. And so we sought to launch a new brand, Think Quick Events, that was separate from our original family-oriented customer persona. And Jonathan here and his company, Big Mouth, actually really helped a lot in really building the core and foundation of that brand leading up to a really successful brand launch later in the year in Q4. So big thanks to Jonathan for helping making TQE a reality.
Awesome. Well, let's ask you the same question, LJ, from the business owner perspective. I think your story was a little different. So what were those first weeks and months of the pandemic like for you on your side?
I'm still recovering. I know that the word of the epidemic or pandemic was pivot. We were spinning. I felt like I was working 24 hours a day. I was asking my employees to work long hours, wake up early, stay up late, because we're in technology. And suddenly that was all people had to communicate, to work, to keep in touch with friends, to manage childcare. Who knows? We were setting up video cameras. We were setting up home printers, which, good for you. I hate printers. Anyway, yeah, those first couple of months were sort of atrocious for us. Just really some of the busiest and most stressful times we've had it at Birds on a Cable. And I think for my sanity check was how do I keep my clients happy? We're all going through something pretty traumatic, but how do I also let my employees know that we're still a team, even though we're not seeing each other every day? How do we communicate and continue to talk to one another about what we're all going through, not only personally, but also, hey, I had this really weird issue come up and I used to see you in the office every day and talk to you about it. And, it's just trying to encourage a new level of communication, really. So I think it was strange to feel a little guilty being so lucky in business and being so busy, but that's where we were. And so my pivot, I guess, was trying to, how can I change internal structure to make sure that we're staying in communication, to make sure we're happy. And it was a lot more Zoom meetings. It was a lot more Teams video calls, but adding that to our day and trying to add a time for us to just touch base and say, like, here's what I've got on my plate. Here's where I need help. I think, Sean, don't argue with me on this one. That definitely kept us afloat.
I think it's really important that you're calling this out, because we talked about this survey data at the beginning about the 80% of businesses that are expected to make a full recovery. But I think there's really two stark stories here, right? And one is, hey, our business is booming and we had to go pedal to the metal and work harder than we ever had before. And on the same side of that coin, Jayson, you were working probably harder than you ever had before, but just to save the company, right? And to maintain operations or ensure that you could, right? And so I think it's Really important, LJ, that you shared that part of the story, because while there's been so much devastation in this pandemic, particularly for business owners and diverse business owners, there's also, I think, a lot of positivity out of that. And there's also a lot of lessons learned about how to keep a company and a team afloat during this virtual time. And some would argue an IT company should be ready to go in that situation. But I can tell you that I know that it's not easy. So I appreciate you sharing that. And Sean, I would love to hear from you from an employee perspective. What was that like for you? And hopefully you're not going to contradict anything Laura Jean just shared with us.
You can mute him if you need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. It was weird, obviously. But I'm, it's Laura and I in the office most of the time. So we had to like kind of force communication, if that makes sense. When we're in the office, we can chat about whatever. When we're not, it's just something that needs to happen. So we would, set events on our schedule to, hey, touch base for 15 minutes, because like she said, we were spinning like crazy. So there's a ton going on, and for her to keep up with what I'm doing, or for me to keep up with what she's doing, or, hey, I need help with something else, but yet there's another, we refer to our employees as birds. So there's another bird. Is he busy? Yeah, he's too busy to do this and that. And so like, it was just, chaotic. Yeah. And it was just very chaotic, but we managed it. And I want to take a second to speak on how we manage the client side, because I think that's very important. And I think we are extremely proud of the results that came through this from our clients. We were completely transparent with them. Obviously, we're always transparent with them, but this was different. People were scared. People were nervous that their businesses, they were just unsure. And so being completely transparent and educating them, like, this is what you need right now in order to succeed. And these, during that time, there was also so much new technology coming out. And so having, us educate ourselves about the new technology that we can present to our clients that can streamline their workflow was very important. And so that was like a second job in itself. And so basically, it just paid off to have such loyal clients and be completely transparent and educational, and some of the stuff we already had in place that people didn't use, and like, these super expensive AV systems or conference room systems that people just didn't use, and it's like, oh, now you have a use for that you've been paying for, for so long, but not utilizing it. And so that's just kind of how we succeeded. And I would like to bring it back to Laura. I don't think we lost a client, or a client went out of business. I and I think I can't say that I can take responsibility for that, but I think we can take a little bit.
Well,
so
it certainly helped us it made us feel good.
Yeah,
we felt like we were making a difference.
Yeah, so we're very, very proud of that, because they relied on us a lot and they trusted us, and that's a big thing.
I think it's so important that you're calling this out, because I read early on in the pandemic that in the first 4 or 5 months, we underwent 5 years of digital transformation as a collective global community. And you really focused in just now, not on your external stakeholder, your clients, right? But also your internal stakeholder, your flock, right? I looked on your website, the birds are the flock. So that's great. And I think that that's so important. And, when we're looking, I think both at our team and externally, I look at what we had to undergo at Team NGLCC with our team. We said on March 10th, all right, everyone, we're going to shut down the office. We'll see you back in 2 weeks. Gather everything you need for the next 2 weeks. 20 months later, we have since leased out our office space. Our team is entirely virtual. Most of us have left the DC or New York regions. I'm in Colorado right now. So I can tell you that one of our biggest concerns was not only ensuring that we were delivering for our certified businesses and our corporate partners and our affiliate chambers, but it was also making sure that our team had what they needed to be successful, because we had to go in overdrive to support our stakeholders, right? So I really appreciate that you took that lens on both the internal and external stakeholder. And to that end, Jonathan, I want to turn to you, and sort of in the same vein of the last question, but also, how did you collaborate or support other LGBT businesses to help weather the storm during COVID?
Yeah, that's a good question. I want to start with the pivot thing, because I honestly didn't even really consider this until kind of hearing everybody talk now. But it was very interesting for us. Like I mentioned, had a co-founder who left in January, literally right before the pandemic. And so for me and for Big Mouth, we were already pivoting, right? Going into the pandemic, we were kind of figuring out who we were. Now that 50% of our ownership had left, we were going through our own sort of internal brand story shift, kind of exploring some of these things, joining the LGBT chamber. So a lot of that stuff was kind of already dramatically going out for us. I remember in February, I was not home like one night that month to have dinner with my husband, and because I was out on like the networking scene and shaking trees and meeting with people. And then all of that came to a screeching halt in March. And I had already been working from home. Most of our team was already kind of remote. One of our biggest clients was in Denver. So we were very used to using Zoom and other conferencing stuff. So the shift into the pandemic was more of a shift into kind of how things were before January and February of that year. So it was very kind of interesting time for us. It was also a little bit scary because as many people probably would realize, in times of financial strain, marketing and creative budgets are the first ones to go. And that crazy month of February, we had a pretty big pipeline of big projects we were anticipating working on in the summer, and all of those came to a screeching halt. So we had to kind of flex to kind of figure out what things meant. And we're kind of a small core group of big agency veterans who all have had at some point in their career chosen to be freelance on our own. So that flexibility allowed us to kind of work through last year with the client stuff that did come to us. As to the second part of your question, joining the chamber in February, I think was an amazing thing too, because the Chamber of Illinois really shifted pretty quickly to digital networking and everything. I think it was really kind of exciting to see that happen, where a lot of the other networking groups that I had joined didn't really know how to handle this sudden shift to being on camera all of the time. So it was really great to kind of be interactive with that. Like Jayson said, we got involved with a couple of other companies that were kind of going through this question of what do we do with our brand now? What do we do with our marketing now? How does that kind of work? So it was great to kind of work with other members of the chamber to do that. We also participated in a couple webinars. I remember I gave a whole presentation last year on sort of what now with your brand. It was kind of great to talk about after we'd already kind of gone through it. It was very timely. And then a great example of what we're doing now, because we've kind of grown in how we're interacting with some of the other chamber members. We're working on this really big project with the Chicago Department of Public Health that we're really excited about and really proud of. We're building the project is basically a welcome baby kit. They are handing out at different hospitals and underserved communities in Chicago, and that's going to include things like diapers and formula and a 160-page booklet that we've co-written and edited with 25 pediatricians from all around in the city. And part of that is developing a kit. We're using Townie Branding is actually helping us to produce the bags for that. They're a member of the chamber. And actually that booklet is being printed now by a LGBTBE in Florida, APPI. So CDPH loves to hear that throughout the life cycle of a project, we're using other diverse suppliers to kind of do that work for them.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love the rising tide lifts all boats sort of mentality. You went through as an industry a big shift, which could have been devastating. But I love the story of resilience and buckling down, your team just sort of firing on all cylinders in what was already a time of change for you all as a company, and then coming out on the other end and not just supporting yourselves, but also bringing other diverse businesses and LGBT businesses into the process, which is fantastic. Jayson, how about you? How did you all collaborate with other diverse businesses and other business owners along the way to weather the storm?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been very blessed to be as involved as I have been as a Rainbow member over the past year in participating in talks and chats about these very topics. I think in being able to be in a forum where fellow entrepreneurs can be vulnerable and open about what it is that they're going through is such an important soft resource compared to other like very tangible or financial resources that are out there as well. As I mentioned before, in my own journey, I too sought after other diverse businesses to help me along in that journey. Certainly significant beginnings of that with Jonathan's company, Big Mouth, and then after the brand launch occurred, wanting to be able to do, for example, a thought leadership and social media splash and program for that. So I sought out a women-owned company, Spodek & Co., whom I had met in a conference very similar to some of these online ones that many of us have participated in. And we've been engaged for nearly a year now at this point with that company. And then as the reopening of the state came to fruition earlier this year, we worked together with a Black-owned company, DM Burton, who might be in the audience here, maybe. He's also a member of the chamber and LGBT owned as well, and just had a blast in helping him really showcase the life and the energy of our in-person escape rooms to be able to attract these organizations back. I mean, when I think about when we're all going through our own journeys through recovery, through change, there are so many resources that are among our company right now, in our community, that it would be foolish to kind of turn a blind eye to that. Let's take advantage of all of the help and expertise that we were able to provide for each other.
I love that, Jayson. I think it's so important, right, to call upon the chamber family to support one another and to help be vital resources. I think frequently I talk with business owners, and I think one of the big things they say is, hey, if I didn't get a contract with this certification, then it's useless to me, right? But there's so much more than that. There's the B2B side of things, there's the networking, there's the relationship building, there's the educational opportunities, the conferences, so much more. And to that end, LJ and Sean, I want to turn to you. How has the chamber, its resources, your LGBTBE certification, how have they helped you throughout this pandemic?
I can start. I think Sean's got a great head about him for big projects. He's got a lot of big ideas, and some things he brings to the table, I'm like, and some things like actually work out. Like, it never occurred to me to join this chamber until Sean joined Birds on a Cable, which I think says a lot. And so when I was spinning without a head on, trying to keep our current clients happy and working, Sean was out there looking for what else we could do. Where else were there holes? How else could we succeed during this pretty uncertain time? Because if the work was going to dry up, we had to come up with whatever would be next. And so he started looking at like contracts going to minority and diverse businesses, and came across a project that is still in progress at O'Hare Airport, part of the renovations there, and they needed technology support. And I think he came to me with like a 500-page RFP, and I looked at him and I was like, no, like, we don't have the time, we don't have the resources, we're a really small group. But he just had this big idea and knew we could do it. And that's someone that I definitely need at Birds on a Cable because it pushes me, but it also, you know, showed that we are more than capable of handling something like this, and we very nearly, well, we might still get the bid. But Sean, I'll let you talk a little bit more about the specifics of that project.
Yeah, before that, yeah, we were looking for creative ways to, you know, generate more business. And I think we have a lot of supplier diversity directors or people in that role in the audience right now. And so during a lot of the downtime that we had, I would go and into those portals and, you know, fill them out like you guys always tell us. Now I actually had some time to do it, and sat there and filled them out. It's super boring, but it's something to do, and it worked out with that. I've actually gotten a couple of people that have reached out recently because of that. And I'm like, I don't even remember filling out their portal. But anyway, so but yeah, back to the public sector. So I always had some goals in mind to, you know, kind of get our foot in the door there, because with COVID and with the uncertainty, it kind of expedited that, because that money is going to be there, you know, like, and so it's another way to generate some revenue. Well, I started, you know, just researching that and projects in the city of Chicago, and just kind of how the process works. And that's, you know, that's a lot. It's a lot of work to even figure out how to get your foot in the door. Well, we came across the job, and actually Jeremy was the one who referred it to us at the O'Hare project. And so this company reaches out to us, says they need IT support. They believe in in minority businesses. It's a target market RFP, so everybody is represented on it. And, you know, they said, we need an LGBT firm on here as well, because they need to be represented just like everybody else. And so we went down that road, and we were on a huge RFP with them. And it's just been very exciting just to see the progress that it makes, and to talk to other, you know, like-minded people in the process who believe in everything that we're talking about today, and like inclusion. And, you know, it's just, you can see a light at the end of the tunnel, because like I said, when we first joined 6 years ago, not many people knew what the certification was. And now we have a lot of, you know, companies reaching out to us specifically for it. I'm not going to tell you that just getting certified is going to give you, you know, business automatically. That's not how it works, but it certainly gives you some credibility, and you're going to meet people who believe in the same things that you do. And I think that's really important, because they're going to help you out. And so just building relationships through that goes a really long way.
I'm so glad that you said that, Sean, because it takes the words out of my mouth, and I'm usually the one preaching it. So I'm so glad that you say that. Jayson, I want to call out this really great advice that you gave in the chat. Was you actually source diverse talent from local community colleges to help you complete those portals. And I say this all the time, it does not have to be on the business owner to be the one to complete the information in the portal. There might be some nuanced information that you can lend support to, because maybe each portal might have its own, you know, differences. But generally speaking, you're right. As long as you're comfortable with being transparent about some of the information required to complete those portals, why not get some interns to come in and do that work for you? And it exposes them to a really unique area of business, this intersection of business and diversity, equity, and inclusion that they probably aren't learning about in the classroom. So I've heard from a couple LGBTBEs that they do bring on interns specifically to focus on the supplier diversity work in the company. And you're right, it takes a huge weight and time off of you to go through each of those portals. And I know Robin Hicks, I see her here in the chat. Robin's going to tell you, if you want to do business with BP, first thing you need to do is go sign up in that portal and have that conversation with her. So folks, we still have a little less than 15-20 minutes, or a little less than 20 minutes here to go, but I want to make sure that you're putting your questions in the Q&A box. And I want to shift gears a little bit. You know, when we look at the LGBTQ community, we aren't just LGBT, right? We're women, we're persons of color, folks with disability, veterans. We comprise the diversity within all diversity. And so, you know, thinking about that last question, the resources of the chamber, your certification and so forth, how did you also work across diverse segments to uplift our collective diverse communities during this pandemic? And Jonathan, let's start with you.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and something really important to me and my team. A good example is last spring, we worked on a project for CDPH, done a lot of work for them this year, but they were creating this report called the State of Black Health, being run by their own internal Chicago Health Equity Index team, which is a group of 5 Black women with various backgrounds in the city, tasked with defining, measuring, and analyzing kind of the state of health equity in the city, particularly on the south and west sides. You know, I really think that our creative process as it is really great at treating the client as a collaborator and kind of getting the right kinds of input. But it was really important to our team that we incorporate diverse voices as much as we could throughout the course of that project. So with the help from Jeremy and the chamber, we actually found a Black photographer who captured photos that, throughout the city that were included in the book, as well as using a Black DE&I consultant who kind of helped ensure throughout that creative process that we were approaching everything with a mindfulness and a reverence for the content, because it's really, really important content and important data that the city is actually using now to make decisions about allocating funds, all that kind of stuff throughout the city. So it was a really, really important piece to kind of get right. And we knew that getting right was a very complex thing to do. I can actually now additionally share that we are partnering with an MBE and WBE PR agency to kind of provide a full service capability to our clients. We're still kind of figuring out the details of what that agency partnership looks like. But we're already working on a project that kicked off yesterday that's really great to be able to go into a meeting and be able to talk about diversity and inclusion from the start is really exciting thing to do.
Teaming is so important. I'm so glad that you bring that up, because so often, right, you alone may not be the company that's ready and primed for that large corporate contract. But if you team up with another diverse business or another diverse business, you know, you each get a piece of the pie, and you are able to achieve that, build your track record, and hopefully grow your portfolio. So I think that that's a really, really important piece to call out. And great to see how intentional you all have been at Big Mouth about working across our collective diverse communities. Jayson, what about you? Any thoughts over at Think Quick?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I mentioned earlier as we kind of embarked on our journey of doing it, what it is that we did, like including working with that woman-owned marketing company and the Black-owned photographer as well. But I also want to reflect on kind of the way that we go to market, specifically on the corporate side, is to help organizations in general understand and embrace all dimensions of diversity and diversity of thought through our activities. And although we don't necessarily build games that specifically hone in on diversity topics, though that is something that we can build for sure for our clients, we really focus in on making sure that everyone has a voice, everyone has a seat at the table, actively participates, and that they engage in this type of collaboration that requires everyone to work well together. And then beyond what we do from a service delivery perspective, I also have been very active in trying to connect with other business owners and actually have started to do a little bit of small business consulting myself, and helping out in given my accounting background, helping out small businesses in terms of getting grips around their financials, or with my consulting experience, feeling out their like process improvement opportunities and whatnot. And so I've shared conversations with women owners, Black owners, Latinx, Asian, and all across the different dimensions of diversity that's out there. And it's really exciting for me to kind of put my consultant hat on a little bit and to help other companies find success in their own specific corners of their industry.
Excellent. Jayson, thank you so much. So I want to make sure we have enough time to answer some questions in the Q&A. So this is a final question for all of you, which is, we're about to head into an amazing day of matchmaking and other sessions. And I want to know what advice or lessons learned you have that you can share with fellow business owners or employees of certified businesses about marketing yourself and your company, subcontracting, bidding on contracts, public sector opportunities, all of the above. So LJ, let's start with you.
Sure. I think my one piece of advice would be, don't be afraid. You know, when Sean came to me with that 500-page RFP, I was afraid of it. And I thought, like, not only is this heavy, it's a lot of work that I don't even know if we're qualified to do. You know, it's like the old adage, like, figure it out later and just go for it. Because I think if the chamber has taught me one thing, it's that you do have the support you need here, and you can find people to help you if it's a subcontractor or going to a peer to ask how they did it. But don't be afraid to go after those contracts or to try to go after that big project, because it might just might help you make it.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Be fearless, y'all. Jonathan, what about you?
I've actually got three that I thought of. The first one's a little bit silly, and that's that know that UPS provides notary services, because that actually saved our butt recently. For anybody who doesn't know, a lot of like state and local municipality contracts require notary signature for certain things. So that's a good one to know. The second is one that's been really, really helpful for me, and that's keep all of your answers to RFP questions and proposals in one place, because countless times we've been able to turn around a proposal, you know, in a matter of 24 hours, because we've been able to look at pieces and say, hey, we answered that 6 months ago on this proposal, we answered that on this other proposal. And the third one I would say is actually from our experience with CDPH, and that's to start to build good relationships with the contacts you meet in public sector opportunities, because we've gotten invited to larger and larger tables within the city just because of the smaller pieces of work that we've done with CDPH. You know, we started with those small scale reports that we were doing, just kind of turning around design, and then we got invited to participate in a project called Family Connects, and because of that work we won the work that I was talking about with the welcome baby kits. So just starting to develop those relationships alone, I think is a really useful tip.
It's awesome. Yeah, you're nothing without your network, right? And I want to touch on the second point that you made around keeping your RFP information in one place, because you're right. Sometimes it's like, hey, you've got 24 hours, 48 hours to turn this around, and you still have your other responsibilities in the interim. And so keeping that in one place, and also having your capability statements ready, right? Have a B2B, a B2C, federal or state capability statement, one page ready to go, because I know that Sean Franklin from our engagement center is always sending opportunities out to our LGBTs. And sometimes we do not have even a full 24-hour turnaround. So if you have that ready to go and you're ready to respond and say, hey, Sean, I could potentially meet this bid, so important. And the other thing I want to call out on the RFPs is don't lie about your capabilities, right? That just actually collectively hurts our diverse business communities. Be open and honest about what's in your realm. And again, if it's not within your reach right now, consider teaming with other LGBT businesses to to Jonathan's point about growing your network, that's so, so important. Sean, I want to turn to you for your thoughts and advice here.
Yeah, mainly what I've learned is just following up. I've been to countless networking events, and gotten tons of business cards, and sometimes you just leave and that's it. That's the last you ever talk to that person, anything. So like, make your conversation somewhat meaningful, where somebody might remember you, and then just follow up, and just every few months, just, hey, how are you doing? Because you don't know, at some point there could be something in the pipeline that you don't know about. We have a project that's finally starting after 2 years, and I bug this guy, I think every 3 months, just like, hey, what's the status on the project? Oh, it's still gonna happen. Like, in the back of my mind, is it really? Like, it's not. But I just kept being on top of mind, and it ends up paying off. And so form a relationship, make yourself memorable, and after that, take the networking serious, like it's supposed to be. And I think there's a lot of results that will pay off from it. It's not going to happen instantly. That's for sure. When I first started going to networking events, I thought, oh, there's business coming in right away, because I just talked to this guy, and he's like, oh, well, and it doesn't work like that. But if you just continue to follow up and build relationships, it will definitely pay off in the end.
That's great, Sean. I think it's so important, right? These business and contracting relationships are not won overnight, and that sort of lends to my favorite phrase or saying, which is be persistent, but don't be a pest. Keep yourself known and continue to follow up. And it will take time to turn things around. And Robin said that too in the chat yesterday. We had an amazing webinar Wednesdays at NGLCC. Russ Terry from Life Coach Radio Networks was talking about cultivating relationships, and he said some relationships can be really fast turnarounds, and others take like 5 years, and that's not unique. I've heard that many times. It's not an overnight process, so I'm glad that you bring that up. Now, Jayson, really quickly, your advice in 30 seconds or less, so we can get to some awesome questions we've got here in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having your capability statement, capability presentation, your pitch ready, and some immediately actionable things for the matchmaking sessions coming up. Be ready to listen and know that that's not the final conversation, like Sean was saying. Have an idea of who you want to talk to within the organizations. Maybe not a name, but certainly a title or a role within the company, and ask for the connection. What's going to be taking place in about half an hour's time is the first step. It's the foot in the door. You still have to go ahead and walk in and actually get to the room that you want to get to.
That is awesome. Great advice, Jayson. And I want to actually turn this first question in Q&A over to you as well. How do you know which companies have portals, and how do you narrow down which portals you target?
Sure. I mean, so if you have to answer the second one, if you have a target industry that you'd like to go into, feel free to go ahead and zero in on that. Identify some kind of population that you want to tackle. My approach working with my interns over the summer was actually to use the list of corporate partners on the NGLCC.org website, because my perception was that if they are very out about their support for the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, they're not only going to be embracing of the LGBT community, but of also other diverse communities as well. So that was my main target. In terms of knowing whether or not they have a portal, well, you just kind of have to go to their website. The approach that I gave to my interns is search up the company and the words supplier diversity, and you'll generally land on a good page that will have information on it, and ideally directions on how to actually go ahead and engage in that regard. You'll get some articles too, which is really important info, because you want to be knowledgeable about the company's presence in DE&I in all of its dimensions. But that's generally the first place to go. Some will have a form. and you might not hear back from the forum. That's where following up definitely is important. Some will have, please email us for more information. Some will leverage like an Ariba or a Connect.io or other types of general platforms that leverage kind of a single sign-on, and some will have their own custom platform. But kind of like RFPs, a lot of them generally ask for the same set of information. So having that central and available, while like Sabrina had said, being yourself available for nuanced questions can be a really great way to be able to sift through that. So that's my answer.
Thanks, Jayson. I think that's fantastic in terms of a response. And I would also say, I'm glad that you mentioned corporate partners on the NGLCC website. Absolutely. I dropped that link here in the chat so that folks can take a look at the corporate partners and figure out, by doing a simple search, like you said, how they might get in touch with supplier diversity. And in follow-up to that, we have a question from Alan that says, should a new business be certified prior to entering company portals, or should new businesses wait until they're certified? Alan, I would say go ahead and get certified or start the process to certification. Oftentimes they're going to ask you to either upload your certificate or provide your certification number that they then come to organizations like ours to verify. But a lot of times the diverse vendor portal might be distinct from the broader supplier portal. So it's a matter of what Jayson just said in terms of recognizing, as you're doing that research and you're searching supplier diversity, what kind of portal you're entering, right? Their broader supplier portal or their diverse vendor portal. And then when you're certified, you can also reach out, and I'm picking on Robin because you're in the chat and so active today, Robin, but you could reach out to Robin and say, hey, Robin, I'm really interested in doing business with BP. I noticed that you're a corporate partner of the NGLCC. I saw you at the LGBT Chamber of Commerce of Illinois event, and I've actually gone ahead and registered in your portal. Would love to chat. Here's my capability statement. So different things like that to be able to take advantage of what you have to offer, certification and local membership have to offer for you. And that's a really good point that Jeremy also just put in the chat, which is that certification fees are waived when you are a member of your local affiliate. So make sure that you join the LGBT Chamber of Illinois when you are in the process of getting certified, or utilize your evidence of being a member of the chamber during your certification process. If you come to get certified, I can tell you Jada from our team is your certification manager. First thing she's going to tell you to do is come join the chamber here. So go ahead and get that done. All right, we have another great question here, and for the panelists, so feel free to jump in. Can you share tips for reaching out to other diverse suppliers to consider or begin partnerships? Do you hard sell? Do you lean on emotion? Do you pitch the win-win? So on and so forth. Who wants to jump in?
I could jump in and answer it from the perspective of having somebody pitch to me, because the PR agency actually came to us. And I think my answer, kind of based off of how that interaction went, is maybe embrace your vulnerability a little bit. You know, understand why you're kind of coming to the table with this conversation, that it is a little bit of win-win, it is a little bit of emotion, it is a little bit of all of these things. You know, she came to me with sort of this problem of, they were moving into more of a DE&I space, and they really wanted to have the team to kind of showcase this, but obviously couldn't go out and seek particularly LGBT people working for them or whatever. So when she found out about our certification, it was sort of this natural fit of like, oh, you're a great partner company. You do things that we don't do. You also have this certification, and allows us to come to the table with companies with this broad range of a diversity story. And, you know, just kind of that vulnerability that she shared with me, that sort of like, you know, these are the real reasons. We really, you know, just want to have an open, honest conversation about it. To me, was really endearing, and really made the thought of partnering with somebody who is that comfortable in their own skin and talking about sort of these things was really great.
Excellent. Thank you, Jonathan. Any other thoughts on this? Otherwise, we have one more question. Okay. All right, this is for everyone. Advice to your former self 5 years ago. You know, I know that 5 years ago, none of us thought that we would be in this position. Laura Jean, you may have started your business at that point, but I'm sure that you did not anticipate being where you are now. So for each of you, advice to your former selves in the last 5 years that you would give to any other business owner or development manager on the line. So we'll start with you, LJ.
Oh, geez. I don't want to echo what I said earlier, but I think like as a business owner, it's don't be afraid, just keep trying to put your foot forward and figure out problems as they come. I was thinking a little bit about the question earlier with partnering with other diverse companies and supplier diversity channels. And I was thinking that's certainly something that we could be better at Birds on a Cable. And I think one of the problems is, as a small business owner, I try to wear too many hats. So it's like deciding to take some of those hats off and finding the right partner to put that hat on for you. So it's letting go a little bit of what you think you're good at.
I'm so glad you bring that up, because I was just chatting with a certified business owner here in Colorado 2 days ago. And she said to me, I'm wearing so many hats on any given day. And I just decided, I turned to one of my colleagues and I said, I don't care. Let's find out what it costs. And we're just going to outsource it because it doesn't need to be my responsibility anymore. And we're actually going to be more effective in the long haul if we do invest in that now. So I really think that's important. And to the point of tenacity and not being afraid, I think that's one of the biggest things for me that I admire about business owners, right? Is you put everything on the line to support this vision and to make it a reality. I come from a family of business owners. I can say they're nothing if not fearless. So I love that, LJ. Thank you for that. Sean, what about you? Advice to your former self.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would say invest in Zoom. And then besides that, my whole thing is, I mean, what has come out of this has made me appreciate our client relations so much. And so it's not like anything was bad 5 years ago with our clients, or, like my relationship towards them. But after you go through something like this, where you are leaning on each other to survive, what I would tell myself 5 years ago is, hey, you're going to need them at some point. And it's not just because they're your customers or anything like that. It's like you're going to need a personal relationship with these people, because you never know what's going to happen down the road. And so I think that's one thing that I've learned through those crazy times recently. And it's something that you can just always be better at. It's not something that's, you can perfect, but it's just something that you can work on nonstop and always be better at.
I think that's so important and a huge lesson learned in the last year. I've talked to so many people who were hauled up alone in a tiny apartment in New York City, or they were trapped at home like me with their partner and their dog. And it's like, I've seen nothing other than these faces on Zoom. And in some days that was a saving grace to just be able to say, hey, can we just talk for 5 minutes about life and not about business? So people first. And I think that's a really important lesson. Thank you, Sean. Jonathan, what about you?
I think I have two. My first is not to quote a Disney character, but let it go. I mean, so much of the past couple of years has been riddled with anxieties, being able to trust my decisions, be able to kind of trust the decisions of my team, kind of leap first and everything. And really like working on being able to kind of just trust the process and trust everybody and let go of those anxieties is the first thing. And then I would say the second thing, and it echoes what I said earlier, is invest in your communities. I mean, I think that that's really important. I wish that it was something I had done before kind of losing the co-founder, because the support system that the LGBT Chamber provides is incredible, to the points that everybody on this panel has made already. You make friends, you make a support system, you make connections. Really, everybody is here like whenever you need it. And that's, I think, a really, really invaluable asset.
Love you coming in with the list every time. That's great. I can already visualize your thought process. I think those are all fantastic pieces of advice. And panelists, go ahead and drop your info into the chat here. Jayson, we're going to close out to you on advice to your former self. I saw your face when I asked the question, so I've given you time to think.
Exactly. I mean, there's obviously been a lot of activity and a lot of growth since then. I think everyone has put out lots of really, really great advice. And I would kind of encapsulate all of that with take care of yourself. Put yourself first. It's not selfish. For those, many people may think like, oh, if you become an entrepreneur, you're just doing it for yourself, just doing it for the money. But if you aspire to be a servant leader, it's very easy to put yourself at the whim of others' requirements, others' demands, as well as your own expectation, your own ego of what it is that you and your company are supposed to deliver or supposed to be able to deliver, and needing to be able to dissociate from a results objective mindset to be so addicted to the productivity just leads to complete burnout, and you don't want to find yourself in that space. And ways that you combat that, Laura, you mentioned being able to delegate and actually take off some of those hats. Sean, you talked about these personal relationships. Jonathan, surrounding yourself with a warm, loving, and supportive community, and trusting that that infrastructure is going to help you be your best you. We all are just trying to go and push day by day, but take care of yourself, embrace life, embrace the time that you're spending, and that the issues and problems that you're dealing with today are going to be vastly different from those that you'll be experiencing 5 years from now, a year from now, maybe months from now. And all of those are really great opportunities to just embrace life to its fullest. So live it up.
That's beautifully stated. I can't think of a better way to end today's discussion and encapsulating today's conversation. And I think the theme that I'm hearing here is we've got a little bit of founder syndrome going on with each and every one of you. And so you're telling everybody else to breathe in the way that you didn't let yourself breathe, which I think is so important. So thank you to Laura Jean, Jonathan, Jayson, and Sean for being a part of today's conversation. I really appreciate y'all sharing your time, your insights, your advice, and your resources with our group here. Thank you to each and every one of you for being on the line. Of course, a big thank you to Jeremy and the LGBT Chamber for hosting today's conversation. Go on and kick butt in matchmaking today. And Jeremy, I'm going to turn it over to you to close us out for the day. Thank you.